We're starting. 17 minutes.
Okay. So we're here today to talk about music and its influence on politics.
Influence on politics. I mean, shouldn't we? I mean, we got 15 minutes. That's going to be like a 5-minute conversation. So, I mean, shouldn't we broaden that maybe a little bit?
I mean, there's no limits to the conversation. I mean, you can start with NWA and start with Public Enemy and go all the way to now. There's a lot to say about that.
Okay. Well, what do you have to say about it? Or actually, let's start with Wendy. She's our guest. She should go first.
Hello. So my name is Wendy today, and as far as music and politics, music's influential on all levels. Politics is no exception to that. Music can be very political. I personally appreciate artists who are unafraid to kind of make things political. One of my favorite groups was the '90s group, the Cranberries, and I remember they did a lot of music about anti-war stuff, and just really putting things in perspective, understanding that with war, the casualties are children often. So these are things that we think about, and good music speaks to the heart, and hopefully it can invoke an awakening among people and influence people. One of my favorite artists, Bob Marley, he was very political. I would say Marley was very political, and I believe he really influenced people's mindsets. As far as thinking globally and a more relatable level, just understanding that we're all human beings. We're all part of humanity. So music and politics are very closely related. Some artists say they don't want to speak about politics. I mean, I'm not saying that's your duty necessarily as an artist. I think your duty is to fulfill your purpose as in your artistry. But I do appreciate an artist that's willing to take it there and show some balls. They're willing to speak out about how they feel. I always respect courage. That's always an attribute that I feel is very attractive among people. So I think when an artist can take it there, it's cool.
I agree with Bob Marley as an artist that was political, who had a huge impact on society, and I agree with a lot of his impact in his teachings. But I think the problem is, today's artists aren't as conscious as Bob Marley was. So you have an artist like YG or T.I.
Oh yeah, I know who T.I.
But they're just rappers, really.
Right.
And they don't have they're not as conscious as Bob Marley was, but they do have a huge following. Mm-hmm. So they step into the political arena with their political ideas or views, which are not much more than the average person. Mm-hmm. So they're influencing huge masses of people with a handful of information.
That's other people, though. Nobody told you it has to get influenced. There's books everywhere. You go to the library and read up on stuff and formulate your own opinion. I mean, who's running to see, I'm not going to call out any specific rapper, but I'm sorry, I just don't really care that much how they feel about politics that much if I don't feel like they're a credible source. So I'm not going to be running to I'm not going to name anybody, but the latest pop star to find out how should I vote. No, I want to reflect on my life and what's necessary for that. As far as my what influences me politically.
Well, I also feel that artists can be political as far as as a person, but in their music, their music needs to be relatable at all times. And politics will only make your if you write a song about Trump right now, it's only going to be relatable for a few months to a few years. But beyond that, I listen to music that I used to listen to when I was a kid, and you don't hear anybody talking about Ross Perot and George Bush. It's because it's not relatable now.
But the Beatles were very political, and it's not necessarily. Sometimes they do it in a more artistic way. What was that song? I heard the news today, oh boy. That Beatles song. They're talking about some political stuff sometimes in their music, and a lot of artists may not do it in their artistry. They may do it. They may use their platform to speak out on it. U2, I know Bono has done a lot of work. politics and influencing things globally. To me, he's a more credible source. He gets his hands dirty, you know. Yeah, so I felt like, there are artists that are unafraid to talk about things politically. It depends on their interests. You know, I'm not saying like everybody is a historian. So it really depends on the artist.
Yeah. And yes, the Beatles were political and they were relevant, but they also kept it broad. You know, they didn't speak about in their songs. They didn't talk about what was going on at the time. It was on a broader level. You know, they talked a lot about equality and well, I mean, there was a lot of different subjects, but at no point will you find something that you feel like I have no idea what he's talking about. I have to open a history book to see what he meant. Do you know what I mean?
I get that, and I agree with that. Like in the general sense, I don't feel like you have as an artist, you don't have to talk specifically about Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or whoever's running. You can talk in a general sense on how you feel about war. You can talk in a general sense on how you feel about large government. So those type of messages, if you believe that you shouldn't tax, we shouldn't have as much income taxes as we do, that's going to spread throughout generations.
That's timeless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can be political in a timeless way and still get a message across that's important to convey to the youth. I mean,
for sure. I mean, Russell Simmons is a perfect example of that. To me, he's a credible person that I listen to when it comes to politics. He's very much in tune and he does the work. The work brings credibility as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and there you go, doing the work, doing the credibility, doing the research. Whereas a lot of people in general, not necessarily just artists, but people in general they'll read an article and take that as gospel and start spitting that about as like that's their opinion on everything.
And you're entitled to, but it's also as a consumer you're entitled to select who you choose to tune into, who you choose to listen to as a valuable source.
See,
everybody has, we have a mouth. Everyone's allowed to speak whatever they want to speak, no matter how dumb somebody may think it is. We're allowed to say what we say. So
the only problem with that is that in this generation, people don't read books. I mean, so many people who never read a book or haven't read a book since they were in school, but they do watch videos and they do watch YouTube videos and they do listen to music. So that 3 minutes of political music they heard is as much books as they're going to get for the next year. So it's really a lot more influential than generations past that used to read the newspaper. Newspapers are almost non-existent.
Yeah, but you don't need to read the newspaper when you can get the paper online. I mean, we have to evolve with the times. We're in a different time. We don't have to necessarily get a book to read. I personally love to read books, but you can read on the internet. You can get a Kindle or an iPad, and you read books online or articles online. I mean, one thing I do like is the freedom of choice as of now. I don't feel like, I feel like people have more of an opportunity to be themselves and select what they want rather than kind of being force-fed. And when the internet wasn't as broad as it is, people were given that paper. People were like delivered like the milk or whatever in the paper, and that was the news. And the talk of the town was that was it. But now we have the internet. We can find out what's going on in Japan or South Africa, wherever we want to research. We have that option of whatever we're into, we can look into. So I feel like it's not on anybody but the individual. As far as what you seek, you'll find. If you're only caught up in something very small, then that's all you're going to find. But if you're kind of looking for something a little bit broader, then you have the option of kind of looking into those things.
I completely agree with what you're saying, but how that relates into the larger picture of politics. If you're a person who you only care about what's happening locally, you don't care about any of the global impact of what your decisions make, then should you be allowed to vote for a president who's going to have to make decisions that affect the entire world? I
mean, we can't be elitist as far as intellectualism and say, hey, because there's dumb people, they don't have that vote, Everyone has their vote, I mean, there are dumb people. There are a lot of dumb people. We know that. There are always going to be dumb people. There's always been dumb people. So, but they have their vote. But they can speak their minds.
So, acknowledging that there's dumb people, when the dumb people start to outnumber the more intellectual,
When was that ever? Give
It's
me a
happening
specific
now.
time.
No, right now.
Are we
I think
sure
dumb
of this?
People, if I had to put money on this vote, I would say there's more dumb people than there's have ever been. And
So then, what does that? So then, what does that mean? As far as I mean, it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It doesn't.
Kind of does matter.
It doesn't really matter.
Because
it doesn't, because you have no control over people. You can only control yourself. So whatever they choose to do, how they choose to spend their time, is not. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's something you can't control. It's out without you. You know. So I think we have to kind of let go of that idea of controlling other people. Whatever your fate is what you should go after. Whatever your destiny is what you should go after individually. I have no control over what you choose to tap into, tune into, what you like, what you don't like, who you're into, who you're not into, what kind of stuff you like to do when nobody's around or whatever. That's on you. I can only control what I like to do, what I'm into, how I spend my time. So how you vote, it's not gonna make me upset at all.
But it is gonna influence your lifestyle.
I mean, to some extent, you know.
Yes.
To some extent, not really. I feel like we all are the captains of our own fate, you know. So whatever it is you choose to do with your life is what you choose to do. Things can influence you to some extent, of course, we're in the world, but the things that are within, how you feel about yourself and what it is that your purpose is not going to be all that swayed by who's leading the country. It's not.
But taxes.
Because we have the option of not living in our country. We can move to another country. Like, let's think about it like that. You know, if things are really messed up, you have the option. We don't just live like in a world with one country. You know, how many countries are there in the world? You find a vibe that you like. You know, you find a people or a group that you like, and you're like, yeah, I feel good here. That's where you go.
Okay, but what if Donald Trump builds this wall, and now you can't come into the United States? You were feeling the American vibe, but because Donald Trump put up this wall, he banned Muslims. Now you can't come to this country where you're feeling the vibe of.
I mean, I'm just not certain that that's possible, that you can ban Muslims. I'm not certain that that is legally possible. Let's understand that this is a president. It's not a dictatorship. We're not in the times of Adolf Hitler. Slavery is not coming back in America. No, we are here. Like, people have to operate within law. There are black judges. There are, let's not be extreme here. That's not happening. As far as the wall, I don't know. I mean, it's, people have to really be very realistic about who does the work in this country. And if people, aren't willing to do the work, then they shouldn't put such a fuss up about the people that are willing to do the work in this country.
I mean, for conversation's sake, just talking about America, I mean, that's fine. But you know how hard it is to immigrate to China? Like, there will never be a black president of China. They don't let black people immigrate into China on that scale.
I don't care what China does.
No, they don't.
I mean, China does China. They do what they do over there. Like, I don't know. Why are we focusing on all the negative aspects of the world? Like, there's so much good stuff that goes on, within humanity.
That's true.
To me, there's so many things. We're at such a point in our humanity that we can select, what our interests are. We can live how we choose to live. Breathe in, air. We have clean water to drink. We don't have that in Flint. I see people that are homeless every day. I think it's also a matter of gratitude and being grateful for the perks and advantages that we have. We focus so much on all the negativity, but we're here to have fun and celebrate life, and enjoy each other and do all the things that we love to do. That's what I'm about. I like to have fun.
I agree. And I'm not gonna lie, I live a very luxurious life.
Go ahead.
I do.
Describe your luxuries.
I'm just saying.
Let me find out. You live a luxurious life.
I eat what I want to eat.
What do you like to eat?
Steak. Every opportunity.
How do you like your steak cooked?
However the restaurant makes it medium. Every restaurant
you don't even have to cook your own
I don't. But I understand that there's people that do.
They have to cook their own steaks.
No, I know.
Let's say a prayer for them.
Horrible.
Let's say a quick
Believe me,
prayer
people have to-
for the people who have to cook their own steaks.
What about those restaurants where people cook their own steaks? Is that so we can have an understanding of how the poor people live? These people have to cook their own steak? This is crazy.
I just understand that even though I live this luxurious
Okay,
life.
so wait, back to the steaks real quick. Is that okay?
You can go
Okay.
there.
So,
I'll talk about steaks all
how
day.
do you like your steak cooked?
Medium.
A little.
A little red in the middle. A little bit of blood
Do
comes
you
out when
do
you cut it.
A1 sauce?
No. If you go to a good steakhouse, the steak is flavored to where you don't need any sauce.
Sides?
I like sides. I do like sides. Potatoes preferably.
How do you
But
like
I'll
your
take
potatoes mashed?
mashed with cheese.
How do you like your cheese? Do you like it the shredded kind or do you like it kind of the creamy kind?
Shredded and a little bit melted. Yeah.
So that was
What's the
our
other
timer.
side?
Yeah, we're almost out of
Yeah,
almost
we're kind of out of time.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, thanks for coming. This is the Wendy, Wayne, and Winston show. I'm Wayne.
I'm Winston.
And I've been Wendy for the day. Peace.
Thank you.